Մի խոսքով անբացատրելի հանգստություն տվեց իրենց։ Բայց եթե
ու հասկացել եմ, որ ամեն հարվածից հետո մարդն ավելի ուժեղ է։
Իր կյանքը շատ ուժեղ ու լիարժեք ապրում է հալել այդ մարդկանց։
Առանցնապես նոր բան չասեց։ Այնա ինչ գիտենք։
Մյուս բոյս Լեոյի հետ է լինելու։
Աստված ոչ մի փորձություն հենց այնպես չի ուղարկում մարդուն։
Արիել խոսակցությունը մի փոխելի, հանգիստ խոսում ենք։
Դու հիվանդանոցից դուրս ես գրվելու, մեր ընտանիքը փրկվելու է։
Խոսեցիր, նար ինչ ասեց Լեան, ոնց է Գրիշը։
Hunan is finally awake from that coma, and instead of resting, the first thing he does is look Avo dead in the eyes and ask him directly whether he had anything to do with the attempt on his life. And Avo's answer was so unconvincing that even from a hospital bed, Hunan already knows exactly who he's dealing with. Before we go any further, tell me where you're watching from tonight. Drop your city in the comments. I read every single one myself, and I genuinely love seeing how far this story is reaching. So let's see it tonight. Let's rebuild exactly where this family stands right now, because this last episode dropped multiple bombshells at once, and none of them are staying contained. Aram, panicking after learning the assassination attempt on Hunan failed, is now scrambling to protect himself, refusing to explain to Vovo what's really going on, insisting he needs to handle things his own way, while quietly preparing what sounds like a goodbye, telling a doctor he needs to say farewell to family as if he already knows his own time is running out. In the coming episode, expect that thread to explode wide open, because a man that desperate, that cryptic, is either running from the law closing in on him or from someone far more dangerous than the police. Meanwhile, Avo's obsession with Olga has stopped being embarrassing and become something the entire family can no longer pretend not to see. We watched him sneak to her house in the middle of the night, declare a delusional, inappropriate kind of love, insist that age means nothing when it comes to real feeling, and then get caught completely out in the open by Manon herself, who confronted her own father with disgust and humiliation written all over her face. In the coming episode, expect this to detonate through the entire family at once. Hunan, now conscious and sharper than ever, is not going to let this slide quietly, especially once he connects Avo's erratic, guilty behavior to the same nervous energy Avo showed when directly accused of the assassination attempt. Watch for Hunan to start pulling every thread connected to Avo, because a man that defensive about one secret is very often hiding another. Now here's where the stakes rise sharply, because Manon's pregnancy has taken center stage in a way that changes the entire emotional balance of this story. The baby survived everything the family believed was lost, and the sex was just confirmed, a boy. The same news Masha delivered about her own pregnancy with Grisho's child just scenes earlier. This is not a coincidence the show is going to let sit quietly. In the coming episode, expect Masha to learn that Manon is also carrying a boy, and watch her reaction, because everything we've seen from this woman tells us she is not going to accept sharing that particular victory with anyone, especially not the wife she spent this entire storyline trying to replace. Her scene with Ina showing up specifically to announce the pregnancy like a business transaction was cold, calculated, and deeply unsettling, and Ina's graceful refusal to treat it as a celebration is not going to be the end of that confrontation. David and Nere's financial storyline is quietly becoming one of the most dangerous threads in this entire family right now, not because of betrayal or violence, but because of pride. Nere offered her savings to help cover their loan, a genuine, loving gesture, and David refused immediately, insisting the responsibility is entirely his. In the coming episode, expect that refusal to matter more than it seems, because a business drowning under pressure with no outside help coming does not simply survive on stubbornness. And with the entire family's money and attention consumed by Hunan's recovery, Grisho's treatment, and the fallout from Arno's arrest, David and Nere's shop is going to start feeling the absence of support in ways that threaten more than just their finances. Now let's talk about the conversation that changes how we understand Avo, the grandfather, completely. His dark, joking exchange with Hunan about the afterlife, about even the devil refusing to keep him, felt like classic comic relief on the surface. But underneath it, it revealed a father who had spent this entire story bitter and dismissive, suddenly showing a flicker of genuine relief that his son survived. Watch that relationship shift in the coming episode, because a crack like that in a man this hardened rarely closes back up quietly, especially with Hunan now hunting for whoever tried to kill him and needing every ally he can trust completely. Here's where the investigation truly tightens its grip on this family. Arno's arrest, confirmed directly in this last episode, connects straight back to the hit and run that put Macoons in the hospital, and by extension to the assassination attempt on Hunan himself. When Hunan accused Avo outright of involvement, referencing motive and money with brutal precision, Avo's panicked, unconvincing denial only deepened the suspicion hanging over him. In the coming episode, expect Hunan to use every resource, every connection, every ounce of fear he commands to force answers out of Arno directly. And expect whatever Arno reveals under that pressure to implicate people standing far closer to this family than anyone has been willing to admit. Remember, Aram's frantic attempt to rush Vova out of the country happened at the exact moment this investigation started closing in, and that thread has never actually been resolved, which means Aram's cryptic, desperate behavior in this last episode is not a coincidence. It's a man who knows the walls are closing in and is running out of time to protect himself. Masha's confrontation with Manani in this last episode was one of the most vicious exchanges this story has given us, and it is not staying contained to one scene. She showed up specifically to gloat about her pregnancy, deliberately provoking Manan in front of Hunan and Ina. And Manan, instead of retreating the way she has in earlier confrontations, stood her ground and threw the truth back at her, that Grisho betrayed her, that this child now has to grow up in the middle of that betrayal, and that no amount of intimidation from Masha changes any of it. Watch this rivalry escalate in the coming episode, especially once Masha discovers that Manan is also having a boy, because that detail is going to feel like a direct challenge to everything Masha has been trying to claim for herself, and her competitive instincts are only going to sharpen from here. Now, here's the twist worth sitting with as we head into the coming episode. Hunan already suspects Avo directly, already laid out motive and money with a precision that suggests he's been building this case in his head since the moment he opened his eyes. But think carefully about everything we've actually watched Avo do across this entire storyline, circling this family with obsessive,
uncomfortable intensity, inserting himself into private moments uninvited, refusing every single warning to stay away from Olga, even when threatened with real violence. What if that obsession was never purely about love at all? What if it has functioned this entire time as a distraction, elaborate and humiliating enough to keep everyone's attention locked on a scandalous affair instead of whatever Avo has actually been doing behind the scenes? A man desperate enough to declare love to his own nephew's mother in the middle of the night, willing to humiliate himself completely in front of an entire family, might also be exactly the kind of man desperate enough to be hiding something far more dangerous underneath that performance. And just as Hunan starts closing in on the truth, just as Arno sits in that interrogation room deciding whether to give up the name of whoever really ordered the attack, word reaches the family that Aram never showed up for his scheduled visit to see Hunan the way he promised, that his phone has gone completely silent, and that the last place anyone can confirm he was seen is standing outside the very hospital where Arno was currently being held. Story continues, step 2. Nobody in that family can reach Aram, and the last confirmed sighting places him standing outside the exact building where Arno is being interrogated, which means either he went there to silence what Arno knows before it comes out, or he went there because he already understood he was about to become the next name investigators say out loud. Quick thing before we continue, drop your city in the comments if you haven't yet. I read every single one. Let's see how far this reaches tonight. Watch how the family reacts to this disappearance, because Vova, already unsettled by his father's cryptic behavior, already told directly by Aram that he needs to prepare for a trip abroad with zero explanation given, is going to be the one who breaks first. Expect him to start retracing his father's movements himself, checking who Aram met with in his final days, discovering receipts, phone records, anything that explains why a man that desperate to protect his son from an investigation would suddenly vanish the same day that investigation reaches its most dangerous witness. Meanwhile, Hunan is not going to wait patiently for anyone to find Aram through official channels. A man who just accused Avo directly to his face, who has spent his entire life building an empire on knowing things before anyone else does, is going to use every connection he has to get inside that interrogation room himself. And expect what Arno finally says under that kind of pressure to name Aram directly. Not as the mastermind, but as someone who knew exactly what was being planned and chose silence over warning his own brother. And here's where the story turns in a direction nobody has been watching for. What if Aram's panic was never about protecting Vova from an unrelated danger at all? What if the entire Russia plan, the rush tickets, the refusal to explain anything, was Aram trying to get his son far away before the truth about his own involvement in Hunan's assassination attempt became impossible to hide? And just as Vova uncovers a phone record placing his father's number in direct contact with Arno the night before the explosion, Ina's phone rings with news from the hospital security office, informing the family that a man matching Aram's description was caught on camera entering Hunan's room alone late last night while Hunan was still unconscious, and that nobody has been able to explain what he was doing there. Aram was inside Hunan's hospital room alone last night while he was still unconscious, and security cameras caught every second of it, and nobody in this family knew he was there until now. Drop your city in the comments if you're watching tonight. I read every single one. Let's see how far this reaches. Think about what that means. A man this desperate to send his own son out of the country, this evasive about a simple hospital visit, does not walk into a comatose man's room alone in the middle of the night for an innocent reason. Vova already found phone records connecting his father directly to Arno the night before that car exploded. Now add this. A silent visit, no witnesses, no explanation, timed exactly when Hunan couldn't see who walked through that door. Watch what happens when Hunan finds out. This is a man who survived an assassination attempt and immediately started hunting for names. He does not forgive quietly, and he does not wait for proof before he acts. If Aram was standing over his bed while he lay there helpless, Hunan is going to treat that visit as a confession the moment he learns about it. And here's the twist nobody saw coming. What if Aram wasn't there to finish the job at all? What if he was there to check whether Hunan was already awake, already talking, already close to remembering something from that night that could destroy him first? And just as security pulls the full footage to see exactly what Aram did in that room, the recording cuts out at the exact moment he leaned in close to Hunan's ear. Hunan woke up from that coma, and the first thing he did was accuse Avo directly to his face of being involved in the attempt on his own life. And Avo's answer was so shaky, so full of deflection, that it's hard to watch that scene and not wonder what he's actually hiding. Drop your city in the comments if you're watching tonight. I read every single one. Let's see how far this reaches. This episode threw a lot at us at once. Avo's obsession with Olga stopped being an embarrassing subplot and became something the whole family finally saw with their own eyes, sneaking to her house at night, declaring love in the middle of the street, getting caught red-handed by Manon herself. And right alongside that, we got the confirmation that's been building for weeks. Manon's baby survived, and it's a boy, the exact same announcement Masha made about her own pregnancy just scenes earlier. That is not a coincidence the writers are going to let sit quietly. Here's what I think is coming next. Masha is not the kind of character who accepts sharing anything, and once she finds out Manon is also having a boy, expect that rivalry to sharpen fast. Ina already shut her down once with quiet, polite refusal, but Masha doesn't read rejection as final, she reads it as a challenge. Then there's Arno's arrest, tied straight back to the hit and run and to the assassination attempt on Hunan. Hunan already named Avo as a suspect out loud, with real precision about motive and money, and Avo's panic in that scene tells me this thread isn't finished. If Hunan starts pulling on that string with the same ruthlessness he's shown his entire life, expect something in Avo's story to come apart that has nothing to do with Olga at all. And here's the theory worth sitting with. What if Avo's obsession with Olga was never really about love? What if it's been loud enough, embarrassing enough, to keep everyone's eyes off something else he's been doing this whole time? If that's true, the next episode isn't about a scandal anymore. It's about a man running out of places to hide.